Pilates Lagar. Very timely because talagang sabi nga niya when we met 2 or 3 weeks ago, kung naman tagal na kami magkakilala, sabi niya, itong meeting natin to is provided niya. Kasi nag-iisip siya ng solusyon sa problema, bigla kang tumating. Napag-usapan din namin yung tungkol sa jury system na matagal ko na rin iniisip na tanging solusyon sa korupsyon ng gobyerno, tanging solusyon sa kakulangan ng effectiveness and efficiency ng criminal justice system ay ang jury system. Kung nabanggit na kanina na ating isang member na hindi pa masyadong alam ng mga tao yung jury system, tayo ang magpapalaganap sa buong Pilipinas kung ano ang jury system. So ngayon, the jury system is an idea which is attainable. So i-work out natin na siya ay magkaroon ng reality. So through the cooperation or synergy between the 5 pillars of justice, Knights of Justice, and the Philippine trial by jury movement, the realization of the trial by jury is not anymore an impossibility. Hindi na imposible. So with us around, with our votes counted, with our influence all over, hindi malayong makakamta natin na magkaroon ng jury system sa Pilipinas. With the internet, with the social media, there's so much power in the social media. Let's tap in, let's strengthen our organization, and let's move forward para magkaroon ng jury system sa Pilipinas. So, in the meantime,
the Kilpatrick corruption case would have never even gone to trial if it hadn't been for a group of citizens. The grand jury who indicted him. 7 Action News investigator Heather Cataldo takes us inside a system that's cloaked in secrecy, but has changed the shape of Detroit's political landscape.
23 people, regular people like you and me, serving on a grand jury. They come together in secret inside this room, and their decisions can shape a life, a city, or even a nation.
Before a verdict, Kwame Kilpatrick guilty on 24 different charges, including racketeering, conspiracy.
Before a trial, did Mr. Cato give you cash?
The massive corruption case against Kwame Kilpatrick started behind these closed doors. A federal grand jury spent 2.5 years sitting in these chairs, listening to hundreds of witnesses and examining mountains of evidence. The grand jury system is completely secret, and it's a vital step in a federal criminal case.
Instead of a prosecutor filing charges against someone like in state court, here inside this building, the federal district court, a panel of 23 citizens makes that crucial first decision on whether to charge someone with a felony.
You have someone's life in your hands, and you had better make sure.
Jill recently served on a grand jury in Detroit. Because of grand jury secrecy laws, she can't tell us which cases she heard. Jill says when she got that summons in the mail, she had no idea that she was about to play such a key role in democracy.
My first thing was, how do I get out of this? I don't want to commit myself to something else. But I am so glad I was chosen to do it.
Unlike a trial jury, which usually reports for duty every day, grand jurors typically meet once a week for 18 months.
The prosecutors are over here, and the witness is over here.
U.S. District Court Chief Judge Gerald Rosen took us inside a grand jury room where so many of Detroit's high-profile cases started.
You'll notice there's no table for defense counsel because defense counsel are not permitted in the grand jury room. It's strictly a proceeding in which the government presents evidence to the citizenry.
The foreperson and deputy foreperson sit in the front of the room while the rest of the grand jurors fill these seats. They are not determining guilt or innocence. Their only job is to see if there's enough probable cause for an indictment.
The grand jury process reflects who we are as a people and our values. It reflects, going back to the revolution, our distrust of government overreaching.
What do you think is the biggest misconception about the grand jury system?
I think the biggest misconception is that the grand jury is just a rubber stamp for the prosecution.
Defense lawyers say grand juries only hear one side of the story because there's no chance at all for the targets of the investigation to present their own evidence.
What people don't see along the way is the involvement of the grand jury in the process itself, bringing in more witnesses, not charging on some charges that the government is urging.
Judge Rosen says when a grand jury uncovers more misconduct, they can direct federal agents and prosecutors to keep investigating. That's why the term of the Detroit corruption case special grand jury was extended 2 times for a total of 2.5 years.
I was so humbled when I discharged them. I heard story after story after story about how, although there were hardships for them and for their family, that they believed that they had to see this through, that it was the most important thing they had done.
Usually, just the foreperson returns the indictment to a magistrate. But Judge Rosen says the Kilpatrick corruption grand jurors were so committed, all 23 of them went into the courtroom to hand down the indictment against the former mayor and his co-defendants.
Because they wanted to show how unified they were and how committed they were to their product. Very unusual. I don't know of any other time when that's happened.
Judge Rosen says the citizens of this region should be very grateful for the work those grand jurors did. As for this grand juror, she's just grateful she was chosen to make a difference.
We have the power to change things.
The judge says grand juries have to stay secret in order to protect both witnesses and potential targets of an investigation. If a grand jury decides there isn't enough evidence to charge someone, making the investigation public could have terrible consequences on someone's reputation. I'm Heather Catallo, 7 Action News.
Yep.